Welcome back to In a Tiny Garden. This week, I'm going to be planting out a few things at the allotment, and it might be a bit of a shorter episode because I'm mostly just trying to keep seedlings alive and plants alive before it's time to plant them out, because we're quite behind this year. It's been really cold, especially at night, and now we've got days and days of rain, which is great for planting out, but it's still a bit cold for tender things like my beans, cucurbits, and the sweet corn and things like that, and the tomatoes. So it's just a kind of battle of making sure everything has enough heat and light and moisture. And I've filmed that before, so you don't need to see it. But basically, it's a big shuffle every day, in and out. And there are some things that we're ready to go at the allotment, like beetroot, and we'll get into it and I'll show you what I've done. So, the tomatoes are getting kicked out of the house. They're all grown up. The nights are much warmer, so I'm going to be leaving them out in the cold frame in the evenings, not just outside during the day. And it's also been raining quite a bit, so I've actually had them inside when it's been kind of hail and rain. But yeah, they're ready to move on. So they are getting quite big for these containers, but I really want to try and avoid moving all of these onto new, bigger containers before planting them out at the allotment. So they're going to have to stay squished in here for now. I'm much more confident that these ones will be fine because the containers are a bit bigger. I'm just weeding before I plant out the brassicas, but I mulched it with well-rotted horse manure and compost. There's just a few bits of couch grass that came up along the edges. Couch grass is my nemesis on the plot. Even just a tiny bit of this root will mean that new shoots can grow, and they're really spiky. So there's silicone in the tip, which means they can penetrate other plants' roots. So that is actually really spiky, and if I tried hard enough I could actually prick my finger on that. So that's it sending up an adventitious shoot from the roots. So it's good to get it all up. And then we're going to put this weed membrane back down and plant through it for the ones that last in the ground a really long time, like purple sprouting broccoli, which is what we did over there, and the purple sprouting broccoli is still going. So where I just did some weeding, I'm going to consolidate the ground again by standing on it, because brassicas really like firmed ground to grow in. So if you were sowing directly into the ground, which you could do now as well, although slugs are very susceptible to slugs, then you do this as well before sowing the seeds. And then I'm going to cover it with this weed membrane with the holes I cut from last year where the tomatoes were. And the spacing is about the same for the bigger brassicas. I'm going to fold it in the middle. So now, if I just go the other way, I'm trying not to make new holes in the weed membrane because I want it to last forever. And the more holes you make, the more it frays. So I'm just tucking in the edge. So I'm going to start by planting the ones that stay in the ground the longest towards the edge of the path here, because that means as I harvest I can be rolling up the weed membrane and I can be replanting something else up until the purple sprouting broccoli, which will be right on the edge, which I did on the other side, and you can see the purple sprouting broccoli over there. They are right up against the path, so I've been able to grow other things in between, and yeah, they're still going. So planting today and still harvesting. So let's get planting out. So I can't grow, how many do I have of each? 6 of each, because there's just not enough space. So I'm just going to pick the best ones, but they all look the same. And the rest I'm going to give away to other plot holders. And if I can't give away all of them, I'll just eat them like this as baby greens. So for the purple sprouting broccoli, I grew 2 last year, and that was plenty. I'm giving tons of it away. So I'm just going to do one. I've chosen my one, and I can plant all the way up to the first leaves to give it stability. And the roots have started coiling because I kept them in these teeny tiny pots for too long. I shall be honest, this is going to probably set them back a bit. And you can see the leaves have started to go yellow, so they've definitely used up their nutrients. So you can firm them in really well because they quite like it. And I'm also going to water them even though we are forecast rain, just to make sure they get a good start. Which one? Which one? I can't decide. So for the big ones, like the purple sprouting broccoli, my red rhubarb Brussels sprouts, and these kaleettes, I'm spacing them 60 centimeters apart in all directions because they're huge plants. And I can show you my purple sprouting broccoli in a sec, but it is big. Who do we like better? This is gonna take forever. That was called puddling them in, which means you water them before you even put the soil around them, which is a good idea, but I forgot to do it for the others. So right up to their first leaves, and then a nice firm in. Making another hole because actually these other brassicas don't need nearly as much space. So I'm going to plant a couple of greyhound cabbages. Ideally I'd burn the ends of these, but I'm not going to right now. It's a greyhound cabbage. So this was a great one last year. Cauliflower, purple of Sicily, the most beautiful purple cauliflower. So I'm going to grow 3 this year. So I'm planting the cauliflower early Romanesco, 30 centimeters apart, but you could do a lot bigger. But this will make slightly smaller heads. And as it's just the 2 of us, that's better for us to have more heads, be able to plant more, and we can harvest at different times. So Romanesco is that awesome, awesome one that has spirals, like a Fibonacci circle. So the final one I'm planting is kohlrabi. The taste is a bit like radish, but much more mild. I actually really like kohlrabi. So I'm just gonna do them in a line along the edge, probably about 4. And then we're gonna steal this netting off the previous brassicas, oops, and cover these. I'm planting all of these using my Hori Hori, which is one of my top 2 favorite tools. It's so good for getting deep-rooted weeds out of the ground as well as planting out little plugs like this. And the other tool is actually a weeding hoe, an oscillating hoe. So now I'm just clipping the netting to the nice poles with these clips, trying not to rip the netting in the process. So I'm planting out the second batch of beetroot. This is kind of the main batch, and I'm growing all the different varieties. There's like a crazy amount, I think 8, 9 different varieties. So I'm just planting them out now, and I'm just making sure that I don't have more than kind of 5 shoots in each, because I'm multi-sowing them, which is a really awesome way to prolong your beetroot harvest. So it's almost like a cheat successional sowing, because it means I'll pull the biggest beetroot out first and then eat it when it's kind of smallish, and then I will harvest the next beetroot when it's a little bigger, and basically I'll just keep going like that. So the biggest beetroot I'll keep harvesting, which means that the rest can grow on, and so forth. And I've done it for the last couple of years, and it's worked really, really well. So this one's got quite a few, so I'm just thinning them out. So I just have about 5 in the clump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more. And I'll eat these in salad. This next one is my yellow variety, which is called Boldor. It's a really, really nice golden color. And you can already see what color it's going to be because the stems are nice and yellow. So this one is another favorite. It's Chioggia, which is white with red circles in the middle. And again, you can kind of tell the color it's going to be. So that's all the beetroot planted. So the beetroot are planted about 20 centimeters-ish apart. I could have done more, but again, I like to squish in. And then next, I'm gonna plant out the chard. So I'm going to plant out the chard, a little wider spacing than beetroot. It's a really good cropper that lasts a really long time in the ground, and it can get really big. And I still have one going all the way planted last year. So they're really, really good. I'm doing pink flamingo, leaf beet chard or perpetual spinach, and rainbow mix. So I've done 3 single seedlings, and then I'm gonna multi-sow 2 little clumps for the last 2. And I can have them as smaller leaves. So that's pink flamingo. That's all the chard planted out, these 2 rows. Just planting out some extra spinach because I had 1 plug left. So nice little successional sow of spinach. And the next stuff is ready to harvest. the next spinach is ready to harvest. So I'm finally going to plant out the agretti as well. And I'm just going to do it in between the first row of beetroot we planted a couple of weeks ago and some lettuce. These are tulips that have gone over. They're kind of randomly in the middle of the bed, but never mind. So I'm really excited to try these, to taste these agretti, which are a bit like samphire apparently. And it's about 30 centimeter spacing, which seems like a lot for such a small seedling, but I will do it. I'm just going to tip them all out first and then separate them. So the root system's really good. Look at how long that is. Wow, look at how long that root is. For the very last thing I'm going to plant out, I'm going to do some dill just in a row. And then when my next batch of lettuce is ready, it's going to be just on the end of the bed here. Ooh, excellent roots. So I'm actually going to separate them into two, maybe three. These broke a bit coming out of the pot, but I'm going to plant them anyway and just see what happens. I was thinking about multi-sowing them, which is why I put them all in the same pot, but actually they get to be quite substantial plants. Let's see if that recovers from the little water. Thanks so much for watching this episode. If you want to watch more, they'll be up here where you can click. And if you'd like to subscribe, which I'd really, really appreciate, it will be down in this corner. And let me know what you think in the comments section below.